Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 41 of Stash Chats. Really excited to be bringing you another interview with another member of the sewing community today. Before we get into it, I just wanted to give you a little bit of news. So I think I mentioned this last week, but hopefully you're all enjoying the latest Stash Hub update, which is to customize your to-do list. So do let us know how you're getting on with that. And also, we had a live Zoom on Monday this week. That was really good fun. So if anyone who joined in with that is watching, thanks for coming along. And we're going to do our next live Zoom on the 12th of August. So stay tuned to hear about that. But tonight, we're going to be talking all about Kris's sewing journey. So Kris is at Unsocial on Instagram and on YouTube, and she's got loads of stuff to show us tonight, so it's going to be really, really exciting. And I have already warned Kris that a lot of our British viewers will probably be very jealous of her local weather because Kris is based in the Caribbean. So everyone in the UK, I know, will be feeling the lack of summery weather at the moment. So they'll probably be all very jealous when Kris says how warm she is right now. But yeah, Kris is hosting the Pattern Hackathon Challenge. So if you are interested in pattern hacking, this is a great one to join in with. So definitely going to be asking Kris about that. So yeah, if you're watching live, please do comment along. Let us know where you're joining from, and let us know if you've got any questions for Kris as well. I'll just be weaving them into the conversation. So yeah, let's get started, shall we? Welcome to everyone who's joining. And if you're watching on the repeat as well, do leave us a comment to let us know what you thought of this Stash Chat. So this is the 41st episode that we've done. So there's been loads of amazing conversations. So do check out the playlist if you haven't watched them all yet. Right, let's crack on. Let's get Kris onto the live and start chatting about sewing journeys and Stash. Hello, Kris. Welcome to Stash Chats.
Hi, Yvette. Hi, everyone watching.
So great to have you here, Kris.
I'm super excited. Thank you very much for having me.
So do you want to kick us off by just like a little bit about yourself, like where you are, what you like to sew?
All right, cool. My name is Kris. I live in the Caribbean. I live on a tiny island called Montserrat. Fun fact, Montserrat is actually a British overseas territory, so I am a British citizen, just like Yvette. We have a population of less than 5,000 people, so it's very, very small. And it is extremely hot. I'm telling you, I am roasting right now. I currently have my tiny fan on. And so if you are jealous of me, please do not be, because I really wish I could trade spaces with you guys right now. I am melting. In terms of my sewing, I got started sewing 6 years ago. I just needed a break. I needed something different. I get bored very easily. And a friend of mine suggested giving sewing a try. And at first I'm like, nah, I don't want to do that. That sounds like an old lady sort of hobby. She laughed at me and she said, you know what? I think you'll be really good at it. And so I came home and I said to my husband, I'm going to buy a sewing machine. He laughed at me first. And my brother was like, there's no way you will stick to this sewing thing. And I ordered a machine on Amazon. Of course, as I said, I live in the Caribbean, so it took ages for it to get here. But I opened the sewing machine when it did get here, and the rest has been history. It's been a great break from my usual life, which is as a lawyer. I'm a prosecutor, which is similar to a crown prosecutor in the UK, like the CPS. So I'm a prosecutor by day. And so sewing is a far cry away from prosecution, because in prosecution, you have to follow all the rules. In sewing, I do not. So that's just a little bit of background.
So do you make any outfits that you wear in court, or do you have like your handmade fun wardrobe and your court wardrobe?
I actually do make outfits that I wear to court. Of course, we have to wear very solemn colors, black, white, navy, those kind of things. And I have made just a few items, not too many, but I have made a few items that I can wear to court. And on the days, of course, when I'm not in court, then I can wear and incorporate a lot more of my bright and fun pieces in my wardrobe.
Amazing. Do you find like wearing the more like somber colors at work makes you really want to wear like even more bright colors when you're outside of work?
Absolutely. And I think I'm a little bit rebellious, because there are days when I show up to work in a bright floral top, for example, Those are the days when I'm pretty sure that I don't have court though. But I really do enjoy bright, bold colors, lots of print. And so I don't like my work outfits, generally speaking. And I like that I have been able at least to incorporate some of my me-mades into my work wardrobe.
That's really cool. Have you found that your like style has changed since you started sewing?
Absolutely, absolutely. Before I started sewing, I remember one day a cousin of mine met me at the store and she said to me, "You always look like you're going to a funeral." Because I was almost always wearing black and white and grays and browns and navies. And since I've started sewing, I have ventured into a lot more color and incorporating a lot more print into my wardrobe. So definitely it has changed.
So is that just because of like the availability of more things, or like just like looking at fabrics, you've got more attracted to the more colorful ones?
I think I'm just generally more attracted to the colorful fabrics. And I like the bold prints as well, which is something that I didn't gravitate to before starting to sew. So I just think it's just been a matter of my perspective shifting and my style and taste shifting as well.
So where do you like to buy fabric? Do you have anywhere like local that you can get it, or do you shop online?
Absolutely not. There's one store on Island that has a very small, like haberdashery section. So you can get basic things like maybe elastic. You can get very few. There is a small selection of fabrics, but not the kind of fabric that I'm necessarily attracted to. And there are lots of fabrics for like making school uniforms. Here we wear uniforms to school. So there are lots of that kind of fabric, but nothing that I would describe as remarkably fun. So I do most of my shopping online and I do like to travel as well. So when I travel, I do like to buy fabric, take the opportunity to purchase fabric in person, but most of my purchases are online.
So yeah, a lot of people say they like to buy fabric online. I think it makes a really good souvenir, doesn't it?
Mhm. I mean, buying fabrics online has its drawbacks because, of course, you can't feel anything. And sometimes you end up getting fabric and it's different to what you imagine. Sometimes the colors are different, the textures are a little bit different. And so it has taken me quite a long time to adjust to the different types of fabric, become more familiar with the fabrics so that I have a better idea of what I'm looking for online because I don't have the advantage of going to a store and having a feel.
It's definitely one of those things, isn't it? Like you don't know how much you don't know. Like when you first start sewing, you're just like, oh yeah, I'll buy some fabric. And then when you get into it, you're like, oh, actually, there's still all these different types of fabric. You just kind of learn more along as you go along.
Most definitely different types and different weights as well. Because you might think of a denim and you just think, okay, denim, you think of a jeans and that's it. And then when you start sewing, you realize that they're different weights, 10 ounce, 8 ounce, 12 ounce, and so on. And you don't necessarily appreciate the difference until you start feeling and having to go working with them.
And it makes quite a big difference to the overall like finished project as well. If you choose a different weight of fabric, it can feel like a really different garment.
I have had so many of um, my sewing projects fail because of wrong fabric type. And I think like I've gotten a lot better now, but early on in my sewing journey, I feel like I wasted so much fabric. But of course, looking back now, I don't see it so much as a waste anymore because it taught me a lot along the way in terms of getting accustomed to types of fabric and which types of fabric are better suited for a particular project. And so I'm so much more comfortable now that sometimes I even go outside of the pattern recommendations because I know, you know what, it says to use A, but I think I can get away with using B.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of going outside of a pattern recommendations, you're all about pattern hacking as well.
I
So
am, absolutely.
when did you first start experimenting with pattern hacks? Was that something you kind of got into right away, or was it build up your confidence first?
I think I built up my confidence first. I think initially in my sewing journey, because I was teaching myself to sew, learning everything from YouTube and blogs and Instagram, I was much more concerned with the fit of my patterns at first. And again, because of where I live, I can't buy printed patterns in person. And it meant that I was ordering patterns, I was ordering fabric, I was ordering notions. And so it's expensive. Shipping and customs fees are crazy. And so I wanted to make sure that I was getting the best use out of my money. And so I spent a lot of time initially learning to fit patterns, doing lots of pattern fit adjustments. And once I was comfortable enough with getting a pattern to fit me, then I started experimenting. I was like, hey, well, I've got this base pattern, but surely I can do other things with it. And so I started experimenting with pattern hacking. I think maybe within the first 2 or so years of learning to sew.
Yeah, it's really like, what is your favorite thing about doing pattern hacks?
I just like the additional unique spin I get to add to a pattern. You know, I see it more as a blueprint, and it gives me an opportunity to put my own stamp on a pattern. I know it fits me already, and so I can make this pattern work for me in other ways, and I like that. And I also like that I can get more bang for my buck, because
Yeah.
I can buy one pattern and then I can use it multiple times, making little tweaks here and there, and then transforming it into something entirely new.
Especially when you're really conscious about like the cost and the shipping and everything of buying a new pattern, to know that you can like get loads of different looks out of one pattern, I think it's really important.
Definitely. And it's not even just the cost, it's the availability as well. When the Big Five releases new patterns, well, now we get PDFs. So hooray, we get PDFs now. But before we had PDFs, it meant that I was always sewing sort of out of season, because everybody in the sewing community was grabbing and gravitating to a particular pattern, for example. And then I got left behind because obviously it took me a while to get access to the patterns and then to have them shipped out and so on. And so when I saw the looks coming up, I was like, I can hack something that I have, and I could create something that looks almost similar to what everybody else is sharing. And I mean, it's not always that you want to be on a bandwagon because everybody else is doing, you want to do it as well. But I found that some of the patterns, I was like, oh my gosh, I want to get my hands on this one. And I couldn't. So because of non-availability, I think the pattern hacking sort of helped me to be able to benefit, as it were, from those patterns without actually being able to have the physical copies.
Yeah, and I feel like it's not so much, it's not about jumping on the bandwagon, but it's just about like capturing that inspiration whilst you have it, because otherwise you'll sort of move on to the next thing. But like when you're feeling really inspired, you kind of want to get on with projects straight away, don't you?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. For me, I think my favorite thing about pattern hacking is that you can make whatever you want. Like, you're not relying on a pattern designer to make a design that's like exactly what you had in mind. You can just, like, you know what, I really like that dress, but with this collar, and then you're like, I'll just put them together then, and you can sort of figure it out. And that means that you can actually get the exact things that you've sort of dreamed up, rather than just whatever the pattern designer's idea is.
Definitely. That's a perk to pattern hacking. You put your very own spin on this pattern. And I mean, everybody's different. So you can't depend on designers to have everything that you want in a particular pattern. And so it's nice to be able to insert and inject just that little bit extra personality into your mix.
Definitely. We had a question from Agatha, who said, what's your favorite pattern to hack?
Goodness gracious me. My favorite pattern to hack. At the moment, I will say McCall's 7543, which is what this dress is. I made this dress actually last year for the Pattern Hackathon. And it's just such a simple pattern to start with. It's an off-the-shoulder dress with casing. And so you can do so much with it. So for this particular version, I added tons and tons of volume. So it's a big, floaty dress. And I also added tiers to it because obviously it's very hot where I am. So things with tiers, things that can show a little bit of skin means I can get a little bit more ear. And I do think that's a very good pattern, a base pattern to hack. If you're new to pattern hacking, you want to look for things that have simple style lines. And so you can inject your own personality into those patterns.
Yeah, and that way you can add details to it as well, rather than having to like take lots of stuff away, which is a bit more difficult sometimes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you have a good starting base, very basic block, you can do so much to it.
Definitely. And also it's much easier to get the fit right as well when you've got something very simple to start with.
Absolutely. One of my major rules for pattern hacking is make sure you've got a good fit on your base pattern first. Whatever it is, do a toile, do a wearable toile, or if it's something that you wear all the time, make sure that you are comfortable with how it fits first, and then get to hacking.
Excellent. So this leads us on quite nicely to the Pattern Hackathon 24 challenge that you're hosting. So what inspired you to host the challenge?
Well, I started it last year, and I don't know, I was turning 35 last year, and I just thought now was a perfect time for me to put myself out there in the sewing community. And I thought, well, what can I do? What am I good at? And I thought, you know what, I'm very good at pattern hacking, at least I think so. And I know that a lot of other people in the community like pattern hacking as well. But I hadn't seen a specific challenge targeted at pattern hacking. And I thought, maybe I could give it a go and see what happens. And so I tried it last year and it went fairly well. I did get lots of feedback from the sewing community. And the major feedback that I got was people wanted to be more hands on. Last year, it was more showing what you had done previously and then highlighting what the ambassadors were doing. So it was sort of like watching, like you would watch the Great British Sewing Bee. You sit and you watch. And a lot of the comment was, I really enjoyed watching, but how can we participate more? And so for this year, I thought maybe I could revamp it a little bit more just to get the community more involved in the actual hacking process. And so I figured this year we'll do week by week, focus on a different category of garment, and then throw it out to the community and give them a chance to get hacking, put their own spin on it, enter it. And I got prizes. And that's basically what inspired it. I just figured I wanted to put myself out there in the community, and this was the best way I thought I could do it.
Amazing. Yeah, I think the challenges are really good for the community because they're really good, like motivation to sew up that thing. Because like, everyone, I think, has got a huge list of projects that they want to get sewn. So having a challenge, it's like, oh, actually, I've got this hack in mind. I could sew it for this challenge. And just having that like sort of deadline, but it's not like a pressure, like, you know, like when you've got to sew for an event and you're like, oh, yes. But it's like, you know, if I get this done in this time, I might win a prize. So it's quite like a positive motivation.
Absolutely.
And you've got loads of prizes from different small businesses, haven't you?
I do. I've got tons of prizes this year. I was very, very excited when I had received so much positive response from the sponsors. Of course, as I said, I learned through this community. And so it's just my small way of sort of giving back and also building more community. That's important for me. I don't have friends in real life who sew. And as I said, I live on a very tiny island. So I don't have access to things like frock tails or sewing meetups or any of those things. So building community for me is relegated to the internet. I can only do it through my Instagram and my YouTube. And so having that opportunity to build my community in this way is very important to me.
Yeah, I think it's really great. And then you get to see like new people that you might not have interacted with before and, you know, see their makes and everyone comments. And I think the sewing community, I think I talk about this all the time, but it's such a positive space where everyone's got, you know, so many ideas and like just everyone's so nice to each other generally. I find it's really, you know, reassuring and helps boost your confidence as well when you're learning.
I think so. I think for the most part, as you said, the sewing community has been very nice. People are usually very supportive. They get involved in challenges. They reach out. So I've had a good experience, generally speaking, with the sewing community. Of course, coming from a tiny island, there have been times where I felt like an outsider a little bit. You know, I'm so far removed, as I said, from everything. I don't have the opportunity to meet people in person, at least not very usually. Maybe if I travel, I might have an opportunity. And so sometimes it makes you feel sort of removed from the community in a very weird type of way. And so again, doing this challenge helped me to sort of insert myself into the community, say, hey, I'm a little girl from a little tiny island that nobody knows, but I've taught myself to sew and I like being a part of this community. So hi, we have things to offer as well. So that was part of my motivation to keep the challenge going.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, I really enjoyed in one of your videos where you described the population of Montserrat as having less than half a crowd at a Beyonce concert. Like really puts it into perspective.
Very, very, very small. Very, very small. 5,000 people. You know everybody, or you know who everybody sort of is, who their grandparents are, where they came from, who they're dating, where they live, what they do. It's so small. And so the sewing community is clearly much bigger than the population of this island. So.
Do you find that then because it's a sort of small community, people know that you sew and then they'll ask you for things?
They do. Yesterday was the last time. I went to my daughter's school because they were having report card day, and somebody came up and she said, oh, you make all these beautiful things. Would you consider sewing X, Y, and Z? And she started, and I stood there looking at her. And my first inclination was to say, I don't sew for other people, at least not usually. There have been occasions, but I don't enjoy sewing for other people. So I stood there and I looked at her and I had a big goofy grin on my face. And I'm like, how many times do I have to tell people this is just a hobby? this is not a career choice.
It's so much more pressure as well, like sewing for somebody else. Like you feel like they're going to be scrutinizing all your seams and being like, oh no, I'm not quite sure about that bit of pattern matching, when really they probably wouldn't notice at all, but it just feels a lot more stressful.
It does. It's a lot more stressful. And as well, I don't think a lot of people in real life, if you don't sew, you sort of don't appreciate the time and the effort and the expense that goes into sewing. So you figure, okay, you can get it cheaper if it's homemade. And that's far from the truth. We all know that. I mean, if you're here and you're sewing, then you know that that's far from the truth.
Yeah, I had a conversation with one of my friends and she was like, oh, you know, if I paid for the fabric, would you make me a dress? And I was like, okay, you know, this is an example of the fabric. This is how much just the fabric would cost. And she's like, oh, actually, yeah, maybe don't even bother. So I was like, well, I didn't even need to say how much it would cost if I tried to charge for time.
It's a very expensive hobby.
Definitely.
But satisfying one, a very satisfying one.
Definitely. So speaking of expensive, shall we start talking about your stash?
Sure. So my stash, I shared a clip on Instagram earlier this year. I was actually showing my stash. No, I don't have the benefit of a sewing room. So I sew between my master bedroom and a tiny corner of the, like at the entrance of my house. So I've got my sewing machine set up there. I've got my cutting table somewhere else. And that means my stash is all over my house. But I have put together a little bag of goodies I can share with you guys. So this is one of the most recent additions to my sewing stash. And I've washed them and I just popped them back in the bag because I don't have anywhere else that I can share them. So I've got some good ones that I can share with you. So I've got this one. Now I am a Minerva ambassador, and I've gotten this one very recently as one of the, oops, wrong side, one of the Minerva fabrics. And I'm actually thinking about using this one for my pattern hack, for the pattern hackathon. Now, this is one of their newest substrates. I think it's a viscose linen. So it's got good substance, but it still has some drape. And I can give you a sneak into the week 5, which is the bonus week, which is when I'm going to be making my guest appearance on the hackathon. And me and my partner have chosen dresses as well because we both like dresses. I'm not going to share the pattern with you just yet. If you want to see, you'll have to come and follow along with the pattern hackathon. But I'm thinking this one might just be a contender for one of those makes. So this one is one of the most recent additions to my fabric stash.
Looks gorgeous. I really like a viscose linen as well. Like it's nice. It's like breezy, but it's quite like got a nice weight to it as well.
Mm-hmm. This one has good weight to it. And I feel like this will be perfect for obviously the weather here where it's very hot, because linen can be very cooling as well. So I figure that this might be a good contender for my pattern hack. So I've got a couple other options. So I've got something else in mind. It's this one. Now I got this one on a recent trip I made to Barbados. So I went to Barbados for medicals. And of course I had to snag the opportunity to shop. And I got this beauty right here.
That's fun.
So this is actually like a chartreuse color and like lavender. And I wouldn't necessarily have put them together, but I do like an animal print. And so when I find animal prints in my colors, because I did have my colors done a couple of years ago, and I'm actually an ambassador for one of the color analysis companies. And these were 2 colors on my color card that I hadn't really explored before. And so when I saw this fabric, I'm like, yes, I'm going to go get myself some of this.
Together.
Let's get some of this. So this one is really nice too, but this one has more drape than the first one. But I think that this will make for a pretty cool dress.
Yeah, awesome.
And then in my bag of goodies, I've also got this fabric. Now, this one is not going to be for the hackathon because it's more like a bottom weight. But I actually got this one on a trip to Miami last year. I went to Miami and I saw this huge gingham print. And I really, really liked it. And so I got myself some, but I haven't been able to decide what to make with it. Now, I very recently started sewing trousers. After 6 years of sewing, I finally, Yvette, been able to knock out a pair of trousers. Now, they were the elastic waist kind. So probably I have a lot more work to do, but at least I feel like I finally got my foot in the door. And so I'm thinking about making the NH Riviera, I think it's called. I bought the pattern recently, and I feel like this will make for a really, really like in-your-face trouser in this big gingham.
Nice. Are they like a wide leg trouser pattern?
They're a wide leg trouser, and it has a pin tuck down the center of the leg, and it's a proper trouser, so it actually has, I think, a fly front or whatever. And it will be my first go at like a proper trouser now. So I'm thinking maybe, or if you guys have any suggestions for something as bright and bold as this fabric, then I'll be happy to have them. If you drop a comment when I go back and rewatch this video, I can see all of your fabrics, all of your pattern suggestions for this fabric.
Yeah, it's really cool. I feel like you don't normally see gingham in like that big of a scale.
I think that's what really appealed to me, aside from the fact that it's pink and I like pink. It was just a huge gingham. I was like, wow, that's huge. I've never seen, gingham this big. I've seen some of the Nerita Hansen ones, which are quite large, but I still thought that these were even bigger. And I just had to have it.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. What else should I show you? I got this one as well, which is another animal print. But this one is a knit fabric. No, I don't tend to sew a lot of knit fabrics. I've gravitated mostly to woven fabrics. But this year, I'm trying to push myself a little bit more out of my comfort zone. And then I saw this.
That's fun.
So this is a animal, like it has different animal prints, giraffe print, zebra print, and so on. And I was just like, ooh, this is pretty cool. It has some drape and so on. I haven't worked up the courage just yet to cut into this one. It's one of those knits that is a little bit more flimsy. No, I'm not very good with the content of knit fabrics. So I don't know, like, how much viscose, how much this, how much that, because I'm now becoming more familiar with knit fabrics. But it was beautiful. And I thought, I like this one. So if this is, I probably would say this is one that I'm a little bit afraid to cut into. This one.
How much have you got? Are you thinking of like a dress amount or just a top?
I've got enough for a dress. I think I got 3 yards of this. Usually I can get a dress out of 3 yards for my size. And for the types of dresses that I typically gravitate to, I usually can get something out of 3 yards. So I'm thinking about a dress for this one. Again, I'm always open to tons of suggestions. If anybody has any suggestions, and it's pretty wide as well, Yvette, I think it's 60 inches wide, at least 58 or 60 inches wide, because it spans my entire arm length. So it's pretty wide as well.
Do drop us a comment then if you've got any pattern suggestions for drapey jerseys. Because I know I think it's the Nayati, which is like a really big favorite at the moment, which is like a sort of slouchy t-shirt with, it's just like a front and a back with grown on sleeves. I think it's by Tammy Handmade. But I feel like, when you see a pattern and then you think everyone's making this pattern, that's like my one that's come on my radar at the moment. Or Agatha said Tress Bell by Ellie and Mac.
Okay, I'm gonna go and check them out. I haven't done any Ellie and Mac patterns as yet, so I'm gonna go and have a look. I've heard of them, but I've never sewn one of them.
Yeah, I haven't heard of these either, but I think they've got a lot of patterns, and I think
they do. I think their catalog is quite big. I just haven't sewn any yet. I haven't bought any yet, so I'll go ahead and check that out. And I'll look for the Nayati as well, Tammy Handmade. I'll look for that one as well.
We have to keep it remembered now. Oh, Adriana by Friday Pattern Company is another one. That's like a sort of wide neckline, and then they've got really big floaty sleeves, so that's quite good for a more drapey viscose.
Yes. Okay. I'll have a look at this one.
Yeah, Agatha says that's their favorite pattern company. They are good because they've got sew-alongs for everything. So if you don't want to be reading the instructions, you can just quickly watch the video and then be like, yeah, I know how to do this.
I much prefer that. I hate reading pattern instructions.
Some of them, I think, the pattern authors will think in a similar way to me. So I'll read it and it makes sense. And some of them, it just doesn't click with me. So I'm like, right side to wrong side to on the left hand side of the thing, and I'm just there thinking about it like, oh no.
I much prefer to watch a video myself. I much prefer video.
Yeah, it definitely makes it easier. Some things I think are really difficult to explain in words and in a still diagram. It's much easier to see it.
And for me, I think having sewn for this amount of time and made so many mistakes, for the most part, I'm pretty comfortable with construction now. So I kind of have an idea for the most part how things go together. But it sometimes does get me in trouble. Sometimes it means I have to sit with my own picker because I did not consult my instructions. And then I get to a point and I'm like, wait, something doesn't look right. Let me go and see what I did wrong.
Why do they do this step first? I'm going to put the sleeves on now. And then you're like, Oh, that's why. Yes, okay.
You learn the hard way. Yes. I've got a couple more pieces. I don't know how many you actually want to see. But
Oh
I've
yeah,
got this little
everyone
one as
loves
well.
to see fabric. I think, anyone who loves sewing also loves fabric. So
Definitely. And those are two different hobbies. So I've got this one as well.
love the colors.
I love this fabric. This looks like a Caribbean sunset to me. And
Gorgeous.
I got it and I thought of making the Sicily slip dress by Sewing
Hmm.
Mason. I've made it once before, just like a couple months ago. And listen, I was raving about this pattern. I'm like, oh my God, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Like everything needs to be a Sicily slip dress now. Why haven't I made one before? And I saw this fabric and I just thought that would be another gorgeous slip dress. Or perhaps I can try the saltwater slip by Friday Pattern Company. I
Yeah,
haven't done
that's
that one.
also super popular. I've seen loads of those as well.
Yeah. So there's that. Again, I think I've got 3 yards of this and it's pretty wide as well. So I think I have a lot of fabric that I can play with this one.
Amazing. Yeah, I think that would be a lovely slip dress. And I think
Mhm.
if you do make it, you're going to have to like go outside at sunset and get some like really dramatic sunset pictures.
Definitely. And we do have good sunsets here. Obviously, we have nice foliage as well. So a lot of people comment on my photographs. Oh, you guys, you always have such nice backgrounds. I guess that's one of the perks of where I live. But the downside is I can't get my hands on good fabric.
Do you have someone who takes the photos for you?
Yes, I've got an Insta husband and a real husband. So my husband is very supportive. And so I harass him all the time. B, I need more pictures. I need pictures. I need pictures. He doesn't really fret, So he takes most of my pictures. From time to time, my brother takes a few. And I do have a friend who is a hobbyist photographer. And so he sometimes takes my pictures, but he's a lot more busy now, so I don't bother him as much. So most of the times it's hobby behind the camera.
That's amazing to have a really supportive partner that like helps you with your hobby, and even like the Instagram part of it as well, that they recognize that that's all sort of part of it.
Oh yes, I need that. And I have 2 kids. So it means that when I'm sewing, somebody needs to keep an eye on the kids, even though, sometimes they're under my feet as it was I'm sewing. But he's very supportive. He will take them out sometimes to give me a chance to sew. We'll go on photo shoots. We'll take the kids with us, give them a chance to run around and play while we're taking photographs. He watches my YouTube videos. He will read my
Oh,
blogs. So he is very supportive.
that's
He's very
amazing.
supportive.
Have your kids shown any interest in sewing yet?
Actually, my daughter kind of sort of has, but it wavers. At one point, she's like, Mommy, can you teach me to sew? And there have been a couple instances where I've sat her at the machine with me, and she's got 2 of those miniature machines. It was so funny. Both of her godmothers bought her a sewing machine. So she got 2 of the same sewing machines. And she's toyed with it once in a while. Sometimes she'll say, oh, she's making something for a doll, for her Barbie. Other times she loses interest. Today I was working on this dress right here, and she's like, "Oh, mommy, you remember when you taught me how to sew?" I'm like, "Well, not really. You've just done a couple of stitches. You haven't gotten that far yet." But she does show some enthusiasm, but it wavers, I would say.
Do you enjoy like showing her sewing, or are you like, this is my hobby, like I don't want to spend my sewing time with my kid?
To be honest, I think I'm pretty selfish when it comes to my sewing. I much prefer to be able to tuck into it and like not be disturbed. Sometimes I'm a machine and then somebody wants something and I'm just like, oh, I just sat down to sew and somebody's hungry or somebody wants juice or somebody has homework. And so whereas I would encourage her to learn to sew because I feel like it's very beneficial, I don't want to be the one to teach her because I'm just like, can I please have a moment to myself? This is what I do for myself. And so I would describe myself as a selfish sewer, I think.
I think that's important as well, though, like as part of your well-being, to have something that's like your hobby and not something that you're always sewing for other people and you're always teaching everyone how to sew. Like it's something you can actually just focus on and enjoy.
And sometimes I don't think people appreciate that. I tell people all the time, like, this is my mental health escape. And they think it's a joke. And I'm like, no, it's not a joke. When I sit down to sew, my worries, my anxiety, anything else that's going on, sort of takes a back seat for the time that I'm tucked into my project. And it's funny, when my mom died, she died 2 years ago. And I spent so much time like nursing my grief over my sewing machine. And I'm not sure how well I would have been able to get through it without my sewing machine. And sometimes I feel like if you don't sew, you probably don't realize how important of like not only just a hobby, but how therapeutic it can be.
Yeah, I mean, I think as well, like quite a lot of adults don't have any kind of hobby. Like they don't have that kind of escape where they can just like do something that's not their work or, you know, chores or looking after family. Like they've got something that's, you know, for them that they do recreationally. And I think it's quite difficult to sort of understand it. But then, you know, to find your thing, I think is really satisfying, and to be like, oh yeah, like sewing, this is it, this is my hobby that I'm really into. It's like so good to know that you've got that like when you need it.
I would say so. And as you rightly said, a lot of people don't have hobbies. You'd ask them what their hobby is, and it's like scrolling on Instagram. I'm like, no, 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 that is not a hobby. That is something that you do, but that's not really a hobby. What do you do for yourself? How do you have your mental escape? How do you have your downtime? Do you read? Do you paint? Do you draw? Do you sew? And lots of people don't have that, as you said.
Yeah, it's quite sad really as well. And I think as well with sewing, you've got something to show for it. Like your thing that you've made is like an achievement. So like in Stash Hub app, when you complete a project, it does a little confetti and it's like, yeah, project complete. And I like think that really is like the feeling that you get as well. You're like, I've done it, it's done. Especially if you've been like putting off the hemming for a few weeks and you're like, yeah, I'll do it. So it is really satisfying to finish something.
Absolutely. I'm terrible with finishing though. I will leave my things on the dress form for a long time, waiting for a hem or buttons and buttonholes.
Are you a kind of sewist who does like one project at a time, or are you a few things on the go?
Oh, I've always got a few things on the go, Yvette. I cannot do. My brother used to tell me all the time, something is wrong with you. You cannot do one thing at a time. Like you have to be doing something else. I'll be watching the TV and I'm scrolling on my phone. And he's like, how can you do them both? And I sort of just incorporated that into my sewing. I'm very, very really working on one sewing project at a time. There's usually more than one thing on the go. Something is half finished, something needs a hem. I've started tracing the pattern for something else. I'm working on a toile for something else. I've always got tons of things going on.
Excellent. Never bored. And if you've got a different type of bit of the sewing process that you want to do, you can just pick up that other project.
Absolutely. I like that. I'm like, oh, I don't feel like doing buttonholes right now. I'm switching to something else. Let me go cut some fabric or let me trace a pattern or something like that. I cannot, I don't know. I am really astonished by people who can start and finish something one go. I'm starting, this is my beginning, I'm making it to the end and I'm not putting it down until it's done. I really do. I appreciate people who can focus like that. I'm just not one of them. I'm just not one of them.
Yeah, Agatha said teaching your own kid to sew is hard.
It is. I think it's probably a bit like driving. Now, my kids are not old enough to learn to drive as yet, but I can't imagine the kind of patience that it's going to take from me to sit and teach my own kid how to drive. And it's the same thing with sewing. Like, you're sewing a straight line, it's not that hard. And of course, it is that hard. And so I have to remind myself when you started, it was that hard. And when you learn to go around corners, it gets more difficult. But the patience required, I'm not sure if I have it.
It's really difficult as well. Like, I don't know. So my mum doesn't sew, so I was showing her some sewing, and she was doing some sewing, and I'm just watching her do it, and I'm just there like, like correctly. I don't know what to say. Like, just move the fabric in the right way.
That's a lot of work, yeah.
But I think if you're like, I don't know, if you're a sewing teacher with like a class, it's a different sort of relationship, isn't it? Like you're
it probably would be
receptive to learn, maybe.
I think it probably would be. But as a parent, you're just like, you're not doing it right. That's not how you do it. That's not what I told you. That's not how you hold your fabric.
Stop pulling it through the machine.
Let it guide it through.
Oh gosh. Do you want to tell us about what's on your mannequin, Kris?
Sure. So this is the Clementine dress by Mood Fabrics. This is actually the Sew Your View pattern on Instagram for the month. So my friend, her name is Diana. She's at 26 by Diana. She's actually hosting Sew Your View this month. And yesterday she's like, "Are you going to do the pattern with me?" And I'm like, "No." She's like, "Why not?" And I'm like, she's like, "It's free." So I went and bought the pattern. Not bought. I downloaded the pattern yesterday. And then last night I started putting it together. And then I hadn't sewn for like the last 9 or so days. I haven't had any sojo. I've been tired. I've just not been in the mood. And I came home last night and I started cutting it out because I pre-washed my fabrics, which meant that I could get going. So I stuck it together and I made only one adjustment to it because, of course, it's just a lot of elastic. And I started working on it yesterday. And of course, today's a holiday here. So usually at this time, I'll be in the office. But it's a holiday here today. And so I got a lot of sewing done today. My kids are sort of just running around the house screaming and having fun. And I'm just like, I'm sewing. And so I've been working on this one. So it's a free pattern by Mood. So if anybody else is interested, it's a free pattern. It costs you nothing. It's pretty simple, easy to fit, just tons of elastic. And I decided to use a double gauze. And I had 3 different colors in my stash. And so I just put it together and I've been working on this one. I tried it on though, Yvette, and I hate it. I don't know. I think it's the length of it. So I'll probably have to go back in and tweak the third tier, just so maybe to make it shorter.
Yeah.
I think that's probably what I'm going to do. I need to finish off the elastic in the sleeve, and then I need to finish the hem. But I need to figure out how I feel about the length first. So if you are interested, you should absolutely go ahead and nab it's a Clementine dress by Mood Fabrics.
Yeah, Mood have got loads of great free patterns, haven't they?
Mm-hmm. They do have lots of free patterns. It's good if you're new to sewing. It means that you're not buying, because PDF patterns can be quite pricey. 14 US, 14 pounds. They can be quite pricey. So, when you can find good, and this one is very size inclusive as well. It comes from a size 00 to a size 32. So it's really expansive in terms of size range, which is really important now in the community, size inclusivity. And so I would definitely recommend giving them a try.
Yeah, that's really good for free patterns as well, that they're inclusive in the size, because sometimes that's like one of the issues with the free ones, like they haven't done the full size range because they're sort of testing it out.
Yeah, but the Mood ones, they have pretty good size ranges, which is good.
Are all the instructions and everything easy to follow?
Terrible. That would be my only drawback if you're a beginner. The instructions are cruddy. I got to a step last night and I'm following and I'm like, this cannot be right. And I left it last and I'm like, wait, am I having a moment? Like, am I having a moment? Because I'm looking at I'm like, there's no way that what they're telling me to do, like, how am I going to get the elastic through it if I do it the way they say? And so I didn't. But today I sort of messed around with it a bit. And I did start recording content to do a YouTube video on it. So hopefully it will help other people. I'm hoping to have it up before the end of the month, because of course you have until the end of the month to do the Sew Your View. And I just thought, you know what, maybe this will help somebody else, because the instructions suck.
So when you got the double gauze, did you get the 3 colors like thinking that you would combine them together, or did you just put them in your stash together?
No, I bought them with the thought of doing something with a color block in mind. So when I bought it, I actually only bought 1 yard of this color, and then I bought 1.5 of this one, and then I bought 2 yards, I think, or 1.5 of the third one. And I thought I wanted to do something with a color block, but I just hadn't decided what I wanted to, and it has just been sitting in my stash. And I just grabbed the pattern and I just thought, these are the things that came to mind. And I was just like, let's just have a go at it. Now looking at it, I'm not sure if I'm 100% pleased with the bright pink on it, but without it, then it will be too short. And of course, I don't have enough of the other colors. And of course, I don't live anywhere where I can just go out and buy fabric. So at this point, it's going to stay this way in terms of the color combination, but I am going to adjust the length. But I did buy them with the color block in mind.
Yeah, nice. I think they look really good together. I think it looks quite cohesive.
Okay, thank you. It's a Caribbean dress.
Yeah, Agatha said if you've got more fabric, you could add a 4th tier, but you can also shorten it, I suppose, if you don't have any more.
I don't have enough to lengthen it. I can shorten it. Again, I've just got scraps, but really like scraps of just this one, and the pattern pieces are very big, so they did take up quite a lot of fabric. Um, but I don't have enough of the other combinations, and I don't even have enough of the pink, like to lengthen it. And again, it's so hot. Even though double gauze is quite breathable, I prefer things that are like to my knee and above. It's just so hot. It's just so hot. So I think the best bet is probably going to be to shorten it.
Yeah, it's just deciding as well if you want to just shorten the bottom tier or if you're going to take it off and shorten both the tiers, because I've done that with the skirt before.
Yeah, in terms of the proportions, and I feel like when you do like things with tiers, the proportions become very important. You don't want to sort of cut them off at like weird places. So I'm gonna have a think about it, which inevitably means this is gonna sit on my dress form for longer than it should be, and it means I'm gonna start another project, Yvette.
Yeah.
It means I'm probably gonna start thinking while I ponder.
Yeah, at least you got the challenge to like motivate you through to like at least consider finishing it by the end of the month.
Yes, again, that's a good thing about challenges as well. It means that your things are not, stuck in your work in progress pile because you want to get them done in time for your challenge. So with the pattern hackathon as well, you're motivated because yes, I need to get it in by the deadline because I can win some amazing prizes. And as I said, I've got some really, really good sponsors, Yvette. I really want to just give a quick shout out to my sponsors. I've got patterns from Friday Pattern Company. I've got from Jasmine Desiree. I've got from Love Notions. I've got Notions. I've got fabric from Minerva. I've got fabric from LA Finch. I've got pattern weights from Raven Marine. I've got a color analysis from Your Color Guru. I've got some really, really amazing sponsors. I could not do this challenge. I mean, I could just tell the community we're just doing it for fun. But, it's just that much more encouraging when you have something to give back. And so I really have to say a quick shout out to my sponsors.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, because I saw them all on your stories the other day and there were so many logos. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
So many sponsors. I'm so thankful to the sponsors. So if you are not, if you're not involved in this challenge, please go ahead and consider giving it a go. It does not have to be anything complicated. A pattern hack just means changing your base pattern for an aesthetic reason. If you want to shorten your dress when it's meant to be longer, if you want to lengthen it, if you want to add sleeves, take away sleeves, things like that. It doesn't have to be something like complex, like adding like tons of volume or like rotating darts or anything. So give it a try. If you're watching this, give it a try. You could probably, win yourself an amazing prize from an amazing sponsor. So give it a go.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I'm actually wearing a pattern hack right now. I hadn't even planned it, but this is just a Helen's Closet Gilbert top, and then I just added a skirt to it.
Oh, sweet.
So that's a really easy hack to do. You just cut off your blouse at the waist, put a skirt on. So
and I feel like Helen's Closet patterns are very hackable as well. I've seen a lot of them hacked on the community. A lot of like the Gilbert top and the Ashton. Is it the Ashton top? I've seen a lot of hacks for those ones as well. So she has very good hackable patterns.
Yeah, definitely. And she does really good blogs about them as well, like to tell you how to do them.
So that's a different resource. So if you're new to pattern hacking, perhaps you might want to go and read a couple of the blogs so you get your own creative juices flowing.
Yeah, it's really good. What does I get to say about Ellie and Mac? Ellie and Mac have a weekly sale on their patterns. They're usually 6 patterns for around $4.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's a good deal. I'll definitely have to go and check them out. Thank you, Agatha.
Yeah, right. What time is it? So it's 10:02. I'm going to try and wrap this up by 9 because for our UK audience, the sewing bee is on at 9 o'clock tonight. I don't know if you can get it where you are.
I do. I've watched all 10 seasons. I have. I love the Great British Sewing Bee. Yeah, I don't get it at the same time as you guys, so I have to wait a couple hours after. Of course, it's almost 4 o'clock here. We're 5 hours behind you guys. So I won't be able to see until later on tonight, but I'll be definitely tuning in for tonight's episode.
Excellent. So yeah, we'll get it wrapped up. But if anyone who's watching live has got any questions that they want to ask to Kris, you've got to get them in the chat now. Is there anything else that you wanted to show us or talk about?
Yeah, I've got 2 more pieces of fabric real quick that I wanted to show. Well, actually, there are 3. These 2 fabrics, I bought them to do something else, like a color block, something else. These are bright and in your face. And I wasn't sure because they're is it a PK or PK knit?
Okay.
Is everybody familiar with that substrate? So it's got this texture on it. It's new to me. I've not worked with it before. It's got like a bit of texture on it, like a bubble almost. And I want to combine them to make one dress. And so I would really appreciate sort of like a watermelon mix. So if anybody has any idea of how you think I can combine these two fabrics, then I will be happy to have your suggestions in the comments. Again, I'm going to go back and watch it once this recording is done. So I'll be happy to have your suggestions, or you can drop me a comment over on Instagram. You can send me a DM or something. It's at on social, and I'll be happy to have your comments on these two fabrics, what you think of them together, if you think I can get away with, combining them. And then one more I wanted to share with you guys is this one right here. This is a floral print. It's a pretty large, like floral print, like a large scale floral print. Initially, I thought I wanted to make the True Bias Southport. Is that the one with the drawstring? I think it's a True Bias Southport, but I haven't fully committed to that as well. So again, if anybody has any suggestions for this large scale floral print, I want the fabric to be able to shine. So I don't want to have too many style lines that will take away from this fabric. And I think that it will be very obvious if I don't pattern match it. So I don't want to have anything too complicated. So again, if anybody has any suggestions for this one, I will be happy and appreciate all of your suggestions. So those are the last two things that I wanted to share.
Yeah, I feel like that dress, that fabric would be really good for a big maxi dress.
Yeah.
Agatha says Vivace Dolman. What fabric is that for, Agatha? The floral or the two combined? Oh, so the Vivace Dolman by Love Notions.
Oh, yes.
We'll just find out what fabric that's suggestion for. But maybe if you look up the pattern, it will become obvious.
I think it's probably for this one.
For the floor.
I am a Love Notions ambassador as well. So I'm quite familiar with their catalog. But if I make the Vivace Dolman, it means that inevitably I'm going to have tons of fabric left back, because I think I've got 3 yards of this one, unless, of course, I hack the pattern into a dress, which I could do.
Ideal.
I could do that, actually.
Yeah, there's a sew over it pattern that's like a sort of dress with like a tie in the middle that I think is got a seam up the middle, so you can use 2 different fabrics. But I can't remember what it's called, so I'll send it to you on Instagram.
Oh, great, thank you very much. I'll go and check that out as well.
Yeah, Agatha said it's a dress and a top, maybe the Dolman pattern. So have a look at that. Yeah, I have left in the description for this video, when you watch it back on YouTube, there's all Kris's links to, like, on social, on YouTube, on social, on Instagram, and the Pattern Hackathon challenge, the post that you did about how to join in and what it's about. So do check out those links if you're watching and you're interested in finding out more about Kris and about the hackathon challenge.
Please. I really want the community to get involved. I really was trying to push and advertise the challenge a lot more this year because I wanted the community to be involved. So if you are watching, again, go ahead and shoot your shot. You have to be in it to win it. It doesn't have to be complicated. Small hacks are still hacks. So go ahead and give it a go.
Yeah, it's all about just being creative, really, isn't it? Rather than doing anything like crazy extravagant. It's just about, looking at your pattern stash, thinking about what can you do with that, and giving it a go.
Definitely. How can I make this work for me and to fit into my wardrobe and with my aesthetic? So yeah.
Yeah, Agatha said it's great fun to hack patterns. Well, hopefully you'll be joining in with the challenge then, Agatha. We'll be looking out for your makes. And yeah, thank you so much for commenting on this this chat so much, Agatha. We had we might have lost a few people today because England are playing football tonight, but I kind of assumed they'd already be out by now, so I didn't really plan this. But hopefully we'll get a lot more people who will watch on catch up as well, and they'll leave their comments for all your fabrics. That'll be good. Oh, Agatha's already done her make for the challenge. Oh, I'll have to go.
I've seen her blouse entry in a beautiful fabric. I've seen that one already.
I'm going to have to go and check that one out. I don't think I've seen that yet. Oh, that's really exciting. It's always really nice to see people joining in with challenges. I'm like, yes, it's so exciting for the people hosting the challenges and like all the sponsors, and it's just like the whole community coming together. I love it.
It's definitely the biggest fear I had when I did it first. Oh my goodness, nobody knows me. Nobody's going to enter. They're going to say, who is this girl? Where is she from? The Caribbean? Where is Montserrat? Nobody knows, anything about. And so I was a little bit fearful. And even coming back for a second time, I was like, do I want to do it again? And my friends were like, girl, just do it. You don't know how far you can just keep doing it. Keep putting yourself out there. And the participation this year has just been incredible so far. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the month to see how many other people get a chance to enter.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Well done for all your like hard work organizing a challenge. Like I know it's a lot of work, like, contacting all the sponsors, and obviously you've got your ambassadors doing their projects as well. So you're coordinating them and checking up on everyone's posts. So yeah, it's definitely a lot of work, but it's really good to see all that sewing action in the community.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And something that I'm passionate about, which is the pattern hacking. I like that. I like to be able to see, oh, wow, I didn't even know I could do this with that pattern. Oh, wow, look at what that person did with that pattern. Is very, very, very satisfying to see.
And it's like seeing stuff that's unexpected from people as well. They're like, oh, I wonder what pattern this person's used. No way. Like, how did they start with that?
I saw it last week and I'm like, wait, what? Somebody had done a raincoat that turned into a bag. And I'm like, wait, what? I thought that was just amazing. So it's those kind of things that go, wow, really shines new light on existing patterns.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that sort of stuff, like pattern designers will be watching that and like taking notes, like, oh, never considered we could make our bag into a raincoat as well.
Know.
Do it.
I was astonished. I'm like, wow, really, really, really creative.
Amazing. So are you going to pick winners for the prizes, or are you going to do like a random draw or like a mix?
They're going to be a mix. So for each of the weeks, there's a winner for best top and blouse, best skirt hack, best pant and jumpsuit hack, best dress hack. There's going to be a prize for somebody who manages to enter all 4 weeks. There's going to be a prize for most unique hack. I want to have a prize for somebody who's never done pattern hacking before, but I haven't quite figured out the best way to do that, because then there's no way for me to, I have to take people's word for it. If you say you've never done it before, then I want to do like a random pick for that prize. So I want to do a mix, but the ones for like best categories, the ambassadors for the weeks will actually choose. So the ambassadors for the tops and blouses, which were Rochelle and Candice, they will choose the entry for best top. The ambassadors for this week, which is skirts, Shamia and Shelly, will choose for best skirt. The ambassadors for next week, which is pants and jumpsuits, which are Diana and Shells, they will choose the best pant. And then the final week, which is the dress week, Bird and Shante will choose the best dress. And of course, week 5, when I'm making the guest appearance, is just a bonus week. But I've just got so many prizes. I'm still trying to work out some additional categories, as it were, for gifting, because of course they're not mine, they're for me to give to the community. So although I've got the standard prizes sort of already predetermined, I know what the prizes are going to be and how we're going to choose winners, but I'm going to have prizes left over. So I need to have more like subcategories to give to the community.
Exciting. Or at least you've got your ambassadors to help you pick as well, so that sort of takes the pressure off a little bit.
It does. And again, sewing is very subjective. So if I were choosing for all of the weeks, what I might like, for all of the weeks, it might be the same person every week. But when you have a different mind involved, of course, the ambassadors are different people, different experiences. And so I wanted to have their input as well. And of course, it was their week. And so I've been pushing them as well into the spotlight for their given weeks. And so I just thought it would be nice to have them choose, what they thought the best hack for their week was.
Amazing. Yeah, it's a really good way to sort of help other accounts grow as part of your challenge as well.
I thought so. I thought it was a good, because it's just not about me, and I can't build community on my own. It takes interaction and exchanging with other people. And so I've asked them to put in all of this work. They're not doing it for money. They're not doing it for prizes. They're using their own patterns, their own fabrics, and so on. And so the little bit that I could do is to push them as well. Keep advertising their handles, encouraging people to go and check out their work, go look on their YouTube accounts, and so on. And so that was my way as well to give back to them and encourage them as well. Just to tell, and show gratitude for their participation, helping me to accomplish. And I couldn't do it on my own. It's a lot of work. And because it spans an entire month, it's a lot of, and even still with their help, it's still a lot of work. So that's just my giving back to them and showing gratitude for all their help as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, massive luck with the challenge. Like, I'm
Thank
really
you.
proud of everything that you've like achieved so far with it. And I'm really excited to see everything that people
Thank
make
you.
as well. I think there's going to be a lot of creativity on display. So it's really exciting challenge to keep an eye on.
Thank you.
So yeah, have a great rest of your day. Hopefully it starts cooling down a bit now. It's the afternoon.
I
And
don't expect so for the next 2 hours or so. It'll be hot for the next 2 hours or so, but
oh well, at least
yeah.
maybe you'll get a nice sunset after that.
I hope so. Just before you go, I just want to say thank you, Yvette, so much for having me. I really appreciate you reaching out to me. Again, I'm a small person in a small community, and it's really nice when other people can recognize the little bit that we're doing. So thank you so much for reaching out to me and for having me on your show today. It really means a lot to me.
Oh, amazing. Well, thank you,
And
Kris.
thank you guys so much for watching as well. You didn't have to tune in. So thank you for taking the time to watch this interview as well with Yvette. So thank you guys a lot.
Yeah, amazing. It's been absolutely my pleasure. I've had such fun talking to you and hearing about your passion for sewing. It's always so inspiring. So I'll be back at the same time next week, so 8 p.m. UK time on Wednesday. And next week I'll be talking to Alma, who's at Almita Made, and also she works for Sew Over It. And I've heard we might be getting a sneak peek of one of the new Sew Over It patterns coming out very soon. So that will be really exciting. So yeah, do subscribe to the YouTube channel if you want to see more chats like this. And yeah, hopefully you all have a great month of sewing, and hopefully you get time to do some pattern hacks as well.
Definitely.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you
All
soon.
right, bye. All right. Thank you. Bye bye.